Hey, what's up everybody? So I've got a request to do a tutorial on Reverb, how to use it, why to use it, when to use it, try and cover all that as best as I can. Reverb is one of those things that is going to make a huge difference on your track, and if you overdo it, it'll muddy up your track. If you do it just right, it'll give it some nice space, make it sound a lot better, a lot less dry. So I'll go through and show you kind of what I've done with this track that I kind of gave up working on a while ago, which I need to get back into. But let me show you guys kind of what I've done and how I've done this. I'm going to just play this beginning part so you can hear what's going on, and then what I'll do is I'll get rid of the reverb so you can hear the difference with and without, and then I'll show you how I set it up and do all that. So first off, here's what it sounds like. Okay. You're gonna probably want to listen to this with headphones. You'll notice the difference a lot more with headphones on than you will just listening through your computer speakers, or you might be able to tell through your monitors, depending on how good your monitor system is. Reverb that I do is fairly subtle. Sometimes I'll make it a lot bigger. But for the most part, I try and do it pretty subtle, just to add a little bit of space. So let me show you, for instance, on this snare. You can hear it with, so I'll show you what it sounds like with and without the reverb. Okay, so here's with reverb, and then I will bypass the reverb so you can hear the difference. Okay, so you can hear the difference. What is 5? Okay. So yeah, it's a subtle difference, and it's hard to hear it in the track as a whole when you're listening to it like this. So you see what I'm saying? Like, you don't really notice it as much. You'll notice it way more when I have it soloed. Let me see how I have this. Okay, so yeah, I've got 2 snares that are making this up, and I believe this one has kind of like a tail to it. Or no, it's this one that does. Yeah, they both already, like, because these are both samples, and both of them already have a tiny little bit of reverb on them. So even when it's bypassed, you're still going to notice a little bit of reverb, but not nearly as much. It's more of a tail. Then when this is on, you can really hear the difference. So you'll notice when I bypass that it sounds a lot more dry. Let me show you this one. Again, subtle. So I've got this one at -9 on the snare clap. Got it at -9. And then this one, got it at -10.8. Hi-hats, I mean, they're all going to be similar. I just do a subtle amount. So let me show you this. So that one's pretty subtle. It's got a little bit of reverb on it already when it's just the sample. Having this on makes it sound like it's an actual real hi-hat. It sounds like it's in a room. Again, they're all going to be similar. So I just have small amounts. And the amount that you send is going to depend on how you have your reverb set up. So I've got 2 different reverbs. One is a small reverb and one is a long reverb. This one here is a long reverb, and then let me show you what I did with this one. These are really good reverbs by Lexicon. And this one is a medium room, and the preset is ambience. And I didn't really change much to it. I just kind of left it the way it was. And you'll notice over here when the stuff is playing, you're barely seeing any movement here, which is fine. You just want to make sure that your mix is at 100%. Each reverb is going to be set up a little bit differently. So you want it to just, when you're doing it on a bus, you want it to be just pure, just like a wet. On this one, let's see, why do I have this one set up different? Okay, so typically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have this all the way set at max. I didn't set this one all the way at max, and so the only difference is going to be these are going to have to be turned, the ones that are sent to this bus are just going to have to be turned up a little bit more. I actually don't know why I set it up that way. Like I said, I haven't worked on this track in a long time, but typically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to toss this all the way up, set the reverb to max, and put your dry all the way down and mute it. So you don't want any of the dry signal coming through. You just want straight reverb. Like I said, by putting this all the way to max, you're just going to have to send less of this signal to it. So by me having it set here, I just have to send more to get more reverb. Types of reverb are going to be up to your taste. I just go through my reverbs, and I typically will go with just presets. I'll just kind of scan through the presets until I find one that fits the track and suits the track. Sometimes I'll change the length of it if I want a longer tail on the reverb. So like for this longer reverb, you can set the reverb time to a lot longer. Like this goes crazy long. But it sounded good like this. And then I will most of the time do a little bit of EQing, cut out some of the lows. This one I rounded off some of the highs. You don't need any lows in your reverbs typically. That's just gonna muddy your track up a little bit. Oh, I think that's why I did that. That's right. I set this up super weird. I usually never do this. So pretty much what I did is I put a compressor at the end of it, and it's almost working like a limiter, bringing the volume up. But I have no idea why I set it up this way, to be honest. This is not how I normally do it. The instruments that you're going to want to set it up on, that's going to be all taste. Typically your drums, you want your drums to all have reverb. Sometimes I'll even do it on my kick, just depending on the track. Sometimes I'll even put some on my kick. But your hi-hats, your snare, you definitely want reverb on them. Your synths, do that to taste. Sometimes I'll just use, like if I'm using Silent or something, sometimes I'll use the built-in reverb on that or massive. Sometimes I'll just use like the built-in effects and I'll use like a reverb on that or something, which those typically work pretty well as well. Not everything has to have it. Not everything should have it. You just want to make sure that what does have it has the right amount, which I can't really tell you what the right amount is. That's all taste. So you just don't want so much that it's muddying up your track and everything just sounds like it's in this giant space of a room. Let me show you. I think on this, what I did is I kind of automated some reverb, which was pretty cool. Was that reverb or was that something else? No, that was delay. Never mind. Okay. Let me pull up another track. Hold on one second. Okay. I think on this track, I've got some automation on the reverb that I can show you. I just need to find out where it is. Figure out which one of these I set up to do that. I know there was one spot that I set up the reverb to be pretty big. Yeah, I think it was this. Yeah. So let me show you what this does and how you can automate your reverb to make it sound cool. There's a cool little effect that you can try. Let me show you this. So you can hear how me automating that reverb just made it sound huge. So let me show you what it sounds like in the track. So that's a cool little thing that you can do in your tracks. You can automate the reverb. Trying to think of, I mean, you can put it on your single tracks if you want. It's just easier to set it up as a bus and then send everything to it. It saves CPU. Not every track needs two different reverbs. You can get away with just one reverb on some tracks. This one I decided to have two different reverbs. Trying to think of what else I can cover as far as reverb goes. It's hard to, I feel like this is kind of a tough tutorial just because it's kind of up to you on how you want your track to sound. And how dry of a sound you want or how much of like space you want in your track. So let me show you what this sounds like if I mess with the settings more so than like where I have them set now. Let me show you. So you hear how I have those turned all the way up, how it really kind of muddies up the track. It doesn't sound good, which is why I have these pulled back so much. You just want a small amount. When you turn it up that high, it just kind of muddies up the track and doesn't sound good. So it's it's kind of just, you want to, what I do is I'll solo it to get a good kind of idea of the amount of reverb so that you can hear it. So right there for me is kind of like a good spot. You can hear the reverb, but it's not too much. And then what I'll do is I'll listen to it in the track as a whole, and I almost don't want to hear it on certain instruments. I want it to sound natural. So for instance, on this snare, when I have this turned all the way up, listen to the track with it on all the way up. That to me sounds super unnatural, which sometimes you'll go for that effect. Like if you're doing like a pause in the song and you want like a big snare hit leading into the pause, or right before a drop, you do a snare hit and you pause for a second and then you go into the drop and you want like this big, nice, reverby snare hit. Then that's when you would want to automate it to do that and then bring it back down after that break. But to me, when it's up that loud, it just sounds super unnatural and it's just taking over the track. So having it down at a reasonable level, you can still hear that it's there. It just sounds more natural. Yeah, so to me that sounds a lot more natural. And so that's what you're going to do. You're just going to go through each track, and as you create your tracks, you'll decide if you want reverb on it. And if you do, then just kind of mess with the amounts that you're giving it. Like I said, you just want to set up sends. I mean, in Logic, you set it up on a bus and then you send the signal to that bus. I don't know how every other DAW works, but they're all similar. It's fairly straightforward. Hopefully I've explained enough. And if you need any more explanation, hit me up. I'll do my best to answer. Hopefully this tutorial helped a little bit. It's really hard for me to put into words and explain things that to me are just things that, over time you just know how much you should have and all that stuff. So it's a little bit hard for me to put it into words. So hopefully hearing the difference between having too much and not having any is enough so that you can kind of decide in your tracks how you want to set it up. But the kinds of reverbs that you use are going to be all just depending on what you're going for in the track. Just scroll through the hundreds of settings that you have until you find something you like. Like I said, just make sure that you've got your mix all the way up and your dry signal all the way down. You just want it set so that all you're getting is the wet signal. And that's that. If you have any questions, hit me up. All right, later.